So Brad, reflecting on the last 20 years, what do you see as some of your significant milestones, particularly in relation to family businesses and family enterprises?
20 years has been a bit of a journey. I mean, obviously the first milestone, I think, was 20 years ago, being the first independent multifamily office in the country. So I think that's been a really key part, and sort of building a pretty strong brand and reputation over that time globally has been great. I think the other part, we saw a significant shift post GFC that was sort of a bit of a milestone around family governance, and a real drive for families wanting family governance, family continuity, and those sorts of issues. And probably the third was the FBA relationship. It has been instrumental for us. So 2017 that started, and that really sort of opened us up to a more broader national audience.
So we know that family businesses have their own unique challenges and strengths. And what trends have you observed in the way they operate and evolve over the years?
One of the big trends has been around this whole family office space. It's been a bit of a journey, people understanding what that means, but one of the things that we have started to see with family businesses particularly has been this appetite to build assets and wealth that's complementary to the family business but separate to the family business. So that certainly has been a trend. The other trend is probably not necessarily a new one, although it's evolved, which is around family charters and family constitutions. So, if you look at a lot of the recent FBA surveys over the last few years, we've sort of seen a gradual increase in the numbers of family charters and constitutions, which probably isn't telling the story, because I would have thought and probably hoped that those numbers would be higher. But what we have seen is a big shift on the awareness of people about the importance of understanding what a good family governance system is.
And now it's 7 years in our partnership with EWM Group and FBA. It's been a really important part of, as you've said, part of your journey. What value has this collaboration brought to the family businesses you work with?
Well, firstly, the relationships and friendships that we've built through the FBA community. We've got to work with some amazing people, some great family businesses. I think we've been able to add a fair bit of value from the perspective of educating and preparing families for their roles around succession, transition, preparation, legacy, and their whole family office needs. But I think probably goes more broadly than that. We've certainly seen through our networking community, quite separate to the FBA, I think there's been some real mutual benefit from the two groups. So the ability to be able to sort of introduce a few families who have been operating in that family business space that haven't really had an association with FBA in the past, to introduce them to that, so they finally realise that the challenge that they're facing, they're actually not alone. And there's a lot of family businesses who are going through the same things.
So looking ahead, what opportunities or challenges do you see on the horizon for family businesses, and how is EWM Group preparing to support them over, say, the next decade?
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be a pretty significant decade ahead. So what we do know, and this isn't news to anyone, we've begun a fairly substantial generational wealth transfer. It's $5 trillion that have been transferred.
That's a lot of money.
It's huge. And when you think about how that's going to happen, that's where the real challenges begin. So it's going from one generation to the next, but there's a process that it's got to go through, and then most of it's going to go from spouse to spouse before it gets to the next generation. So some of the stats are 2/3 of the nation's wealth that's going to be controlled by women in a short period of time. And then you've got 7 generations who all have their own unique traits, wants, drivers, communication styles. So families really need to be prepared for that, and that's going to be a big piece that's going to drive the next period. But that's only sort of telling part of the story. So for families and their advisors, the awareness piece is the first bit. Second bit, they need to be thinking about what are the risks and the assessment from their own family's perspective, and then have a really clear action plan. So they're going to be a lot of the drivers moving forward. For us, we're going to keep doing what we've been doing for the last 20 years. It's held us in pretty good stead. So although we've been doing it for 20 years, we've got a national client base, we've now got people on the ground in Brisbane, Sydney and Adelaide. Fingers crossed we'll have some great announcements for Melbourne and Perth shortly. So those areas are really going to drive and support some of those changes that we're seeing. Education's key. So the Institute for Family Wealth, part of our subsidiary business, our education business, that's going to continue doing what it's doing and working with families on the education side. So there's a bit happening, but we'll keep doing what we've been doing for the last 20 years, and I think they'll hold us to a pretty good standard. looking forward to doing with FBA.
And happy birthday to the EWM Group. 20 years and, as you say, another big 10 years to come.
Yeah, 20 years, it just seems like yesterday. But it's been great. Still can't believe it's gone by that quickly. But yeah, the next 10 years and beyond are pretty exciting.